Oh my God, welcome to the party. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you, it's good to be here. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, I hardly ever see you at these work events. It's great that you came. Yeah, I finally decided to come out. Can I get you a wine? Yeah, sure, that would be great, thank you. Oh my gosh, it's just been so exciting. You know, I'm so in love with Carlo. He's so beautiful. Ah! Don't tell anyone, okay? Here you go. Thank you. Isn't this fun? Aren't you having the best time? Why are you dancing? Okay, let me introduce you to everyone. I wonder if Carlo is even coming. I mean, he said he was going to, and then I didn't hear back from him, so I'm just a little unsure. What do you think? Carlo from work? He's been in a long-term relationship forever. Didn't you know that? Oh. I wonder who that is. Oh, hey there, Projector. Welcome to the Projector playlist, where we are exploring every important keynote of what it means to be a projector from the viewpoint of 5 human design experts who are projectors who've been in the experiment of human design for many years. What they're sharing with you is absolute gold. The keys to decoding, wait for the invitation, having an absorbing, penetrating aura, what it means to truly be recognized, success and bitterness, how to create and operate a successful business, avoiding burnout as a non-sacral being. In today's video, we're exploring the properties of the projector aura to be absorbing and penetrating, and how this is really essential in order to truly understand wait for the invitation and recognition. Oh, and if we haven't met, I'm Karen, the Human Design Channel. One simple way that you can reciprocate the energy and time that I've put into this series over the past year is to like, subscribe, comment, engage with this video, even share it. That really helps me and my channel to grow, and I'm so grateful for it. So let's get into today's video. Welcome. Okay, my dear friend, let us debrief and unpack my very strange skit at the beginning of this video. When in my mind, it was one thing and how it turned out slightly different. But first of all, I want to thank my nephew, Arlo, for his starring role, one, in bringing his sword to visit us here and at my parents' place, and also participating in the spraying of the mustard and mayonnaise, which was basically my best idea of how to portray the most significant properties of the projector aura. So let's take a moment to remember that when we're referring to any of the types in human design, that we're referring to the aura type. What kind of aura do they have? And each aura has specific properties, and those properties are the reason why we have these signatures of wait for the invitation and recognition, success, bitterness in the first place. It's because of the aura type and how it functions. So human design is all about mechanics. It's like, how does something work? When we understand the mechanical properties, then we can experiment with them and figure out how it works for ourselves. So this is not a prescription. This is something for you to explore. And the properties of the projector aura are absorbing and penetrating. So when I was trying to think of how to best portray this idea of absorbing, and the idea that I came up with is like, you know, arriving at a party and how it can feel to just be taking in all of the energies. My teacher, John Martin, who is a projector, he used to say that projectors are like eating their environment. They're eating people's energies. They're really taking it in. And so that's where I had the idea of like being sprayed by food and then having people be like, why aren't you having a good time? Isn't this the best? And they're meanwhile like covered with all these energies, experiencing a whole other layer of experience than the other people at the party. So if you didn't understand why I did that, that's why. I wanted to show the absorbing quality. And then the penetrating quality, I wanted to show how it can feel to receive a penetration. It can just be like such a deep thing. So it just pierces right in. Like even if a projector says something relatively neutral, just because of the penetrating aura, it can just really go deep. Let's hear about the absorbing quality of the projector aura first.
The way I experience having an absorbing aura has actually been something I've had to put a lot of work into to allow that absorbing mechanic to happen in a way where I'm not confusing enmeshment with absorbing. So for me, and I've seen this in the sort of human design collective consistently over the last decade. When a projector hears they're absorbing, if that person already has a history of enmeshment and matching energy, which would just be if that person has a history of fawning from childhood, it's really easy to hear that you're absorbing and go, great, I'm going to keep pulling people's energy into my field. So that was a tricky one for me, because I needed to put in a lot of work to be able to separate how I track and read energy in a way that can look absorbing from pulling energy into my field and getting confused. So at where I am now, though I know my aura is absorbing, I don't necessarily experience it like that. And if I think I were to explain it clairvoyantly, what's happening more so is that maybe there is an absorbing function. And as I absorb into that person, what I'm doing is I'm actually keeping the boundary of my aura intact between me and what I'm tracking from them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like maybe before you were just totally receiving and not aware of yourself at the same time.
Yes.
And now you have the ability to stay with yourself and also
Yeah.
be aware of what's happening.
Yes, exactly.
One is I want to be really careful how I answer the absorbing piece, because I think there's not just in human design, but in like the new age spiritual space, so much around like energy protection and like to the point where it can get kind of, and I'm not saying it's all bad, but it can get like into this sort of like, it's dirty, it's bad energy, I gotta like clean myself, I gotta protect myself, I gotta ground myself. And then like 4 hours later, you're like, okay, it's time for bed after I've like done the mat and the crystals and whatever. And it does feel a little bit like a paradox. Like, I think there's like two pieces of it. On one hand, there's the truth that yes, our auras absorb what's around us. And on the other, I don't want to turn it into this, we're just helpless and like at the whim of the world around us, right? And so the best, I don't know if I'm going to love this analogy, but I'm just going to say it. Like, to me, it's like being around, because here's the thing, not all energy, like whatever we're absorbing, some of it's great and some of it's not, right? And some of it's not is sometimes we have to, I don't know, like go to the DMV and there are people that are really frustrated and like, you just got to do it. Or I don't know, maybe there's ways around it, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't love this, but I'm just doing it. It's life, right? That kind of situation to me is like being around secondhand smoke or like toxic lighting. It's like something that like doesn't feel good. You know, it's probably not good for you. But like if I have to walk down that sidewalk past the guy that's smoking, like I'm not going to die. Like it's going to be okay, right? And if I'm a healthy person and I'm like, I don't know, like working out and like spending time in nature, like there's all these other things and like social time with friends, like I can survive 5 minutes of breathing in some smoke walking down the street. And so that's how I think about the absorbing piece of being a projector. Like, yes, obviously don't hang out in toxic situations that leave you feeling terrible. But also, if you are in some situations like that, there's something for you to learn there. Easier said than done. I know my own mind would be like, I hate this, but there's that. And then there's also, for me, a big part of my own journey has been getting to the internal mindset of like, I can feel the big energy of somebody's solar plex feelings. I can feel the frustration of something that's around me, and it doesn't take me out. Because like, that's like not the point. To me, that's like not the point of life. It's like, we learn our design and we learn how to follow what the body is already saying is healthy or unhealthy, so that we can live the life that's going to be most supportive for us, which doesn't mean I can never hang out with someone with like an emotional wave or something extreme like that. I'm just making it up, right? Yeah. I don't know so that's kind of like overall on a personal note with the absorbing aura and like feeling things. I mean, even things I love can.
And then the other part of the aura of really absorbing can be very toxic. So again, if you're not in your power and you don't know how to operate as a projector, it feels very toxic. So we take in so much. And I find beginning projectors, they're like, yes, but my entire life has felt heavy. And I don't know what lightness feels like because I'm constantly taking it in. So again, as your confidence builds as a projector, where you understand yourself and your level of power and your foundation, you're able to move that energy more freely and accept it. I think it's about accepting that, yeah, I do get the brunt of a lot of people's heavy energy, and they want to do healing and they want to come to me for that stuff. And they want me to see and feel and have that intuitive knowing. That's the gift. So instead of it being toxic or being something that has to pull you down, you have to accept that that's what you're born to be. And how you work with that acceptance and turn that into magic, again, comes from the confidence and understanding and building of your power.
What I observe about you, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm imagining it is you probably spend quite a lot of time alone, so you're not actually having to absorb things you don't want to absorb. And you're not like having to penetrate things you don't want to penetrate.
Yeah. I mean, part of being a projector is learning how to be alone in your own aura. I mean, for me, I can't process without taking that time alone. So I've had to go through a lot of kind of reckoning with myself, and especially as a 6'2" and having this 2 line that naturally wants to hermit, where I have this side of me that wants to go out and play in the world and take things in. But I need my own space, because how I kind of look at it is, as much as I think I can, call on the skill and somewhat control what I'm penetrating, I'm being conditioned. As a projector, we're being conditioned. That's part of the nature of being a projector. That's how we become so observant and skilled in seeing people and understanding things, because we're conditioned by their experience and we can reflect it back to them and guide their energy naturally in a more supportive and effective way. So something that I find myself doing is going out into the world and kind of taking on everything and absorbing the world and being conditioned by the world. And then I need to go into my own space so that I can run everything that I took in through a filter and sort of decide, okay, what am I going to take with me? What am I going to leave in that experience? And how am I going to move forward with this information and process in my own space? So being alone to me is everything, because it's the time when I know myself best and when I feel like myself the most. And I think all projectors need to spend a lot more time alone than we probably realize, because it's so important.
Absolutely. It seems like this time alone is essential in order to process and deal with the energies that you have absorbed. And I just think that's kind of a common denominator that I see among a lot of projectors. Now, when we're considering these properties of absorbing and penetrating, we're talking about them individually, but in fact, they're properties that the aura has, so they're not really separable. They go together, and I think that Yeugenia talks really well about them as they are together.
Okay, so having a projector aura has been a very interesting experience. I find that I sometimes almost have to work at turning it off. And I know there's no way that I can really turn it off, but I have to make a conscious effort. So for example, if I go out for dinner and there's lots of people in a restaurant, I find that I could sometimes kind of want to laser in on the people next to me, because projector aura is always focusing on the other. And so I find I take in the energy of others, whether I like it or not. And it could be even distracting for me to be present with the people, let's say, in my table, with my friends or my family. So what I find I sometimes do is literally have to refocus my aura or refocus myself to be present where I am. So if there's something energetically happening close to me, I might be pulled into it. My aura focuses on that. Or if I am, let's say, present one-on-one, I find it works the best, because especially if the person next to me or the person that I'm talking to is open to that connection, because our aura definitely goes and penetrates the other person, whether we like it or not, and whether the other person likes it or not. So I find that interactions can be quite interesting. I find that at times people are literally uncomfortable and they like kind of almost avert their eyes, or they're with me for a second and then they just want to walk away. And I used to take it personally, but as I learned human design and my own design, I realized that it's okay. It's not personal. It's obviously something that, that I do naturally and others might not be comfortable. Or I find that people love it. They love all that attention that I give to them, and they actually just eat it up. So they get, go deeply into their story. And part of that is my channels, my channels, and people tell me their deepest secrets, and kind of the most profound things that have happened to them. And they could be complete strangers. Most likely they're complete strangers with my fifth line. But I find that the aura is definitely about the other. So I find that at times when I come back from being around a lot of people, I definitely need that time to rest. And my aura sort of needs to kind of cleanse off all the energies that are around me. So it's very interesting to be a projector, I find, because you can definitely go deep into something, or, other times you just know that there's a complete wall there. So it's interesting to experience that and just kind of see what shows up.
Several of the projectors have mentioned the projector aura almost being the skill or an ability that you can then consciously use or not, depending on the situation. Now let's explore the penetrating aspect of the projector aura.
It's so cool because I feel it somatically, like in my body. When I'm in a conversation with another projector and we actually we're both inviting each other. So now we're both landing in each other. What drives the mechanism of not just the projector aura, but all types auras, right, is that it's held together by the monopole. Like the monopole creates the frequency of the penetrating, the closed, the blah, blah, blah. So it feels to me like I start to get dizzy, and then I'm like falling into this vortex with the other person. Like we're both swirling into each other. And the way that I like explain it to myself is like their monopole and my monopole are like reaching in towards each other, and we're just like, and it's like I lose sense of like time, and it's like so full on. I'm also left brain, left mind, so there's probably a little bit of that. But I will also feel that with non-projectors. So I've also felt that with sacrals, but it's just one-sided, and where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like so into you, and I'm like falling into you, like into the vortex of their monopole. So there's that experience. I don't know. I'm not saying that has to be for every projector out there, but that's how I feel it. And it's, again, not with every projector, depending on if the invitation is there or not.
That is so funny, because I've literally never thought about it from the perspective of the projector, that you're actually going into someone. Like I've thought about it on my end because I'm being penetrated, and it's like, but then your perspective is like you actually go in.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh,
That's crazy.
yeah, it feels like in Alice in Wonderland, like falling down a rabbit hole where I'm like, because it's like it starts out innocent enough. I'm like, I mean, it's all innocent, but like I'm like, oh, I'm curious about you. I'm curious about you. But if it keeps going, this has happened with steak rolls, where like, I'll be like 2 hours into a conversation with a guy I'm dating, and then he's like, okay, this is like really intense. Like I need a break. And they, he knows human design, so like we had the language for that. But I can only imagine, if you didn't and you're just like, invitation, it's important.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So having a projector aura is very interesting, especially as you expand it. So the penetrating part of the aura can be very uncomfortable because we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be recognized, we want to be validated, but then everybody's staring at you. And our biggest fear is that people are just looking at us and staring at us and seeing us, and that's where we back away from it. So the bigger and stronger your energy becomes, there has to be an elevated level of confidence to know that you do own that, right? Because you're going to penetrate people. You're also going to look at people and make them incredibly uncomfortable because you're staring at them and being like, yeah, I know what's actually going on here, So there's also this very big graceful period where it's like, just back away, because not everybody, again, wait for that invitation. Not everyone wants it. Not everyone wants to feel it. So it's this self-control and holding of that penetrating energy, how we penetrate others and how our energy is penetrated in them and brought back to us.
I did not understand that part.
Okay. Okay. So in the penetrating energy, what I find is that when you're in your power and you're really holding it, you walk into a room or an environment with someone else and they're like, you're penetrating them to the point of like, holy, who are you? I'm staring at you. I'm looking at you. You're interesting. Like what's going on, right? They're giving it back to you where they're now penetrating you. And you're like, I just gonna put my hat on and my sunglasses. I'll walk around often with a hat and sunglasses on because like I don't want anyone to see me. I don't want anyone to feel that. And I don't want them to penetrate me back, right? So it's this like exchange where it's like you have to be ready for that. You have to hold that. You have to accept that like your power is going to be so radiating that people are going to stare and they're going to look and they're going to wonder and you're going to be uncomfortable like you're uncomfortable in the beginning stages. I was petrified to be seen as a projector and doing lives. I was like, oh, this person's going to see me and that person, they're going to see the real me, the most authentic me. And it's kind of like that again, where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot, I hold this energy and somebody's seeing that and bringing it back to me. And I didn't really feel like it right now, So you have to be able to hold the exchange of that. And when you're in your power, they're going to bring it back to you and you're going to be seen and recognized and noticed. And you're going to have to be able to hold that. So when I say have it all and hold it all, you can't just have it all and decide when you're going to hold it. It's holding it all the time.
I love how Victoria Ryan is describing going into the other and the magnetic monopole and how it's drawing you in and how there's like this dance. And I feel like this is kind of also what Amy Elizabeth is speaking to about just going in and then having that reaction back that is also penetrating to her where she feels so seen and recognized.
The way I experience being penetrating, that one's really hard for me to say because I've never had any issues with that and I've never had to work on it. When I found human design, I was like, I saw that part and I was like, yep, 100%. Well, you know what? I take that back. I have had to work on it. I haven't had to work on necessarily the function, like the mechanic itself. What I've had to work on is claiming that was happening in order to create greater autonomy around it so that I could use that more skillfully, because not everyone wants to be penetrated into, and I don't want to penetrate into everyone. And so I've had to create skill around when I use that, how deep I go. And then you could get into even more nuanced layers of like, what's necessary to share, what's necessary to see, am I using this for benefit, or am I just doing it because I know how? And, you know, there's like all these layers, I think, that comes with the projector aura, as I'm sure there are with all types auras. But I think for me, I can get into a lot of nuance because my job is literally to read and track energy. So I'm using them all the time, and I'm wanting to refine them all the time.
That's so awesome. I like to say when for projectors that it's mastery or bust. Like there's really no middle way for the projector. They've got to go like all the way to mastery.
Yes.
Or it's a disaster.
I totally agree.
I think what Pilar mentioned here about what is the intention behind using this skill. Is it something I'm doing just to benefit for myself, or is it something I'm doing just because I can? And this is something I was reflecting on, like these gifts that anyone has, anyone who has spiritual gifts. And I think of in my yoga training, these are called siddhis that just, they arise natural with your own spiritual evolution. You know, such for me, it would be my connection with God, my ability to work on a frequency level. When we have these skills, it becomes more and more important that we are clear in ourselves of why we're using our skills and where are we coming from? Are we coming from the heart? Are we coming from a pure place in our intentions? And have we really even healed ourselves enough to be able to come from the heart and come from a pure intention? And so that's why I really feel like having a penetrating aura and an absorbing aura, it is so important for projectors to heal their trauma, to clear themselves, to be masterful, because really they're all working on an energetic level. And when you're working on an energetic level, there's less margin for error. It's more fine-tuned. And when I think about, you know, my experiences as a generator, when I have felt really irritated or like a projector was just messing with me, I feel like it was because they were coming from a less evolved place. And it can be, for me at least, deeply irritating when I receive that penetration, when it's coming from that place inside of a projector. So my dear projector, I would love to hear what you resonated with from what our projectors shared and how you are experiencing having an absorbing and penetrating aura. I hope that you are inspired to see these properties as a gift rather than a burden, and to use them wisely for the benefit of all. This video leads right into the exploration of Wait for the Invitation, which I will link here. And once it's ready, I'll also link the video about recognition, which will come after that. So this is a series and we're unpacking these things one by one. I'll also put the link to my readings over there. I'm very gifted at helping you tune in and understand the unique energetic signature of your essential self in my energetic architecture clarity session. Okay, much love, take care.